Marvel Rivals Duelists is the biggest category in the Marvel Rivals roster, and we're gonna go through all of them and see which MVP animation is the best animation. Hello, I'm your friendly professional animator, Professor Goo, and today I'll be ranking who has the best animation in the game. Anyway, let's jump into it. Okay, I really like this one, but here's the thing. This kick into the spin is gorgeous. What I don't like is they tilt the camera or something right here. The pose that they choose here, it feels slightly dizzying. So the weight shift there is a little off. The kick spin gives it a lot of points. I would say the weight shift before the jump does take off a little bit. With that in mind, I would say Black Panther's probably, I'll give him an A. I'm surprised that we started with an A this time. It's good. It's just, he's kind of all over the place in screen space. The only part that I don't like about this, even though the arcs are generally very good, is right around here. He travels from this side of the screen over to this side of the screen, and it feels a little bit unearned because there's nothing that really propels in that direction. I know that this is a very stylized animation. There's no background and stuff. So obviously there's going to be a lot of creative liberties. I give Galactic Law an A as well. This guy has one thing I don't like. One of the things that I would recommend with something like this when they're running at camera, you really should exaggerate the claw. If the claw was actually something that felt like it was coming in your face while you're just watching it happen, this is gonna feel a lot more dynamic. It's gonna feel a lot more like he's coming at you in a threatening way. There's so much potential here that's getting missed because they're not quite pushing it as much as they can. But I mean, animation-wise, it's pretty good. I don't like it as much as the other two, so I think this is probably gonna be more of a B. I give him a B. He's not bad. Okay, who's next? Vampire Black Panther is crazy. Damn, okay. What I don't like is the running here. There's no buildup. He jumps too far here to the point where his next hop is about the same distance. So his next hop kind of hops over here and like clockwork kind of fills in the same gap that was there before. So there's no escalation on how far he's jumping and how fast he's running. That could have been taken advantage of as he runs towards camera. In my suggestion, I would say hop a little bit this way, you know, a little bit less, I should say, and then like hop more. That way you have this clear distance increase. So then you get a really cool build up to like a run that makes sense. So I don't know. The animation itself is pretty good, but like the execution is lacking. I give him a B. Well, I actually didn't really like much of it. I probably have to give him a C. A lot of missing context on this one as well. Very disappointing, not gonna lie, but it inherently sets you up for disappointment. I will say that him smashing the glass, a little unnecessary and also hard to read because his hand was all the way over here. And then he pulls his hand away, but the glass breaks over here. Realistically, his fist should have just remained here. And then this part here, really, really cool pose against the plant, which is a little strange. The plant is a little cut off, which is also a little strange. So it sets you up for a really cool battle. And then he's just sort of like, oh, okay. And then he asks for a fist bump, which also is a little hard to read because you can barely see the plant. Ideally, you try to mimic a human fist bump as much as possible, which has a silhouette closer to this, right? This feels a little bit more readable. Damisa Starkey is honestly a D, unfortunately. Oh, shit. Oh, good anticipation. Actually, that's great. So this is actually really well done. Right here, as she's going up, the gun is going up across camera. Look at the smears that they have here. The buildup here is all really, really nice. The momentum comes up here and then goes down, and the payoff feels good. The beginning here has this, which is camera dependent, and the screen space isn't really clean. If I were to draw a circle on her here, her path that she takes throughout this animation doesn't really make a lot of sense. And it's because the camera is technically moving. Because there's no background, you're not really able to follow her like general movement. So we just saw her go here, and then suddenly it's going down here. Now she's stopped, and then she's going here, and now she's over here. What the fuck? Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. If there was a background, it'd be a little bit better, but still, it's just good practice to keep these screen space movements clean. What do I rank her? I would give her an A. Helicopter? Yeah, I don't really like this one. This is probably one of the least interesting ones I've seen so far. She's basically just on a helicopter and then she like flies down. The screen space motion here is also pretty messy. You can kind of see like that's the screen space motion. It's not great because that's really the only thing that they have going for this one. And the curves are not even super clean. I feel like I gotta give her a D. This is like a Lunar New Year one. That's cool. Interesting. I like the skin a lot. I think it's really cute, but I'm having some issue with the drumming animation here. There's something weird about this particular animation. Notice how she's moving her body forward here. There's a wind back here that feels like it could be really satisfying, right? So you get this wind back to eventually hit this drum. But the issue is that during a wind back, ideally what you do, you notice how she's moving forward here. You're supposed to delay this as much as possible so that you get that leading force from the chest. But actually the arm is moving exactly with the chest, if you notice. So as she's moving forward, the arms don't have any delay at all. The anticipation is falling flat, and she does that twice. So you'll notice that like her arms feel a little stiff here. There's actually just more movement, and I think it was overall executed pretty well. But that lack of payoff and stuff like that feels like it doesn't really deserve a higher score. So we got to give it a C. She has so many skins, and Penny Parker only has 2. That's crazy. No, this is not that great. I'm so sorry, Black Widow. Your default was actually the best one so far. The quick draw animation, like this should be closer to her hip. I say this as a Texan. Your hand is supposed to be stabilized and resting on your hip, ideally, if you want to be like a pretty accurate on sharpshooting. So you want to rest your hand a little bit on your hip here. So you actually should be closer to like around here-ish, right? This is a much more accurate quick draw. Plus, you don't have to pull it out of the holster as much. So that is like a much better pose. And then you're supposed to twist your body just a little bit more so that you can get this pose on here, right? But then after that, we see basically no animation until this, at which point the gun spin here feels a little lackluster. There's not a whole lot of things that they did correctly in this one. For what they're trying to accomplish, I think they missed the mark. I would give that a D, honestly. Okay, not bad, but there's one bit that's missing. This is the messiest part of it. It was close to being good, but like, why are you going down, bro? This is such a great opportunity to be here. Look at the composition option that they had here, bro. The momentum of having a hand here. So if the hand was actually coming towards camera here, was super close to camera, and had like this kind of build up where it's swiping across screen this way, goes downwards this way, still maintaining this, you could have a pose that maintains the momentum of every frame that came before. Because you see here, he's actually coming in from a pretty leftwards momentum sort of direction, and then the camera decides to push him over to the left. Like he should be going right this whole time. They just decide the camera's just like, oh no, we're gonna just randomly push him left. That just messes everything up. All the momentum is getting messed up. I really like the beginning of this, but the roll just messes everything up. It's like all the momentum's just completely whacked now. It's a lot of contradicting vectors. So I don't know. I gotta give Hawkeye's default a D. D for Duelist. Okay, that's a cool arc. Really good arc. Decent. Flying animation. I guess falling animation. Oh no, come on. Okay, it has a problem at the end. So clearly the end pose is this pose, right? If this is the pose that you want, you gotta set it up. You gotta make sure those expectations make sense so that you can fill them. That's the whole point of a setup. What the hell is this? The bow is completely in the opposite direction. It's facing left, slightly, technically upwards. The string is on the opposite side. You notice that? See how the string is supposed to be on this side? Ideally, he readies his bow here. So if you have the bow like this, suddenly you can do the wind up and set this end result up a lot better. See, it transitions into that direction. That would be so much easier to read and so much more satisfying. You had everything building up perfectly for you, and then you just I would give it a C. I can't give it a D because the first half was actually pretty good. They just tanked that ending, dude. Oh shit. Oh shit. Genji? Wait, why are you in my Hawkeye skins? It'd be nice if they had a couple more indicators that he's falling down the building. I wish he was leaning back a little bit more because that would give the impression that he's falling down the building and sliding in a much cooler way, honestly. It'd feel more unique, right? But overall, honestly, really good. So Galactic Fang, honestly, I would give it a pretty solid A. Oh. So there's a lot of things wrong with this. This, honestly, from a clarity perspective, cutting suddenly to the inside of the mask, not a great idea. Just because insides of masks, especially ones that look like faces, is really hard to decipher for the human brain. You're not really setting that up, especially because you don't really see the mask before this. That's supposed to be a mask. I can't see it. There's no way. You're supposed to be setting up what you're going to be looking at in a second. And then like what, like you're literally flashbanging the audience here for a second. And then you're like, okay, cool. So it's a mask. I understand. I'm recalibrating. I'm catching up. And then he does this thing, which which I don't think this is actually the best use of like what I'll call like the Shunpo effect, where he's like super fast and like teleporting, because he doesn't go anywhere. If he's teleporting, he should be teleporting like pretty far away, but the distance that he travels, he could have just traveled without the effects. The distance that he's traveling is like a very normal amount of distance. Like he's just taking one step, bro. He's not going that far. So you're not breaking the like immersion of reality of like he's moving impossibly fast. Like, no, dude, he's just moving. Just imagine the same exact idea, but he moves like here and then goes here. That's a lot more what I'll call like unbelievable. I wish I could rank this higher. There's a lot of animation happening here, but everything that they're trying to do misses the mark. I don't think I can rate it higher than a D, dude. Whoa. That was pretty cool. The walking animation has a small error to it. Generally speaking, when you do catwalks like this, you need to have a lot more hip motion. Like that's kind of the point of a catwalk animation. What you really need right here is like a significant weight shift. So you want to get a lot of your weight over to this guy to the point where like you have quite a bit of weight here. That's what you want ideally. Other than that though, like I love the poses. I love the effects. Like I think it's pretty solid. I give it a solid B. Okay, interesting texture. Okay, here you'll notice that like she's moving her entire body here to wind up for this point, but like she doesn't really need to. There's not really like a whole lot of reason behind that particular anticipation. Probably have landed better if she just like lifted her arm instead of like winding it up. I give her a D. Whoa, never mind. Oh shit. Well, that's a cool skin. In terms of the animation though, I feel like the effects are great. That's awesome. This is really, really cool. The sword itself is sick. I really like the design of it. And then she sort of brings the sword up in front of camera here. And she's supposed to land in this pose, right? So the arc is supposed to look like that. So what is the build up to that? Probably the complete opposite arc, right? Surely that's the arc we want to anticipate. This is weird because this is actually a really good anticipation pose, but she doesn't slash in that direction. So like if she's slashing this way, right? The sword should be above and her arm should be like here, you know, with the sword like this way. So that way it actually feels like the sword is going to slash below her. However, that would cover her boobs. So yeah, I mean, the actual arcs are not correct. Technically, I can't say that it's doing a good job building things up because it's not. I think I have to give her a D. There's just not a whole lot of motion going on there. What do you got? I mean, yeah, that's a good one. The arcs are good. They could be slightly better, but it's fine. The part that I don't like is this part right here. So he comes in and he spins, right? The spin doesn't have a lot of good posing in it that makes it readable. So like you have a really stiff pose here. There's not a whole lot of reason why you can't have this spin actually feel a little bit more intentional, right? Like the fists are a little bit closed off. I think he could probably just like let go, have it be a little bit more relaxed so that the spin makes more sense, so that he's like stopping and stuff. Feels a little bit less stiff. And then ideally, honestly, bring this up closer to the camera and just let this axis of rotation feel a little bit more obvious, right? Because his arms are a little bit too low for the axis of rotation to be here. So raise the arm a little bit, make that more perpendicular to the shoulder, or to the spine, I should say. And then you get the axis of rotation to be a lot cleaner. But overall, like I like the arcs. I think they're decent. Not bad. I'll give Human Torch a B. Johnny, put some clothes on. Oh, the effects are gorgeous. And the arcs there are really, really well done. And I really like this pose actually at the end. It's a really good payoff. Yeah, see how smooth that arc was, by the way, leading into this? Oh, he's wearing clothes? Oh, he is. I would honestly give him a pretty solid A. Okay, great pose. Oh, the buildup. Oh, the arcs. Oh, guys, I think we did it. This just great focal point on the energy in the middle of the screen, which transitions really well into this. Like, holy shit, this, look at the focal length. You can see it even though you can't see anything close to camera. It's a really, really impressive feat because they have literally the feet closer to camera just slightly. So they're emphasizing that depth there already. The dragon obviously helps as well. And then you get, again, more build up here to this, which honestly, I think it could have been slightly more satisfying if they held this face pose a little bit, but it might have just been a timing constraint. This is a fantastic pose. They're really getting up close to camera, and then they're pushing this in a really satisfying way. Oh man, Iron Fist. I'm gonna give you an S tier. That deserves an S. That's a default skin too. Whoa. 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 Okay, not bad at all. That was also extremely good for no reason. Holy shit. So great arcs there already. So already we have a really good build up into this, right? Gorgeous. And then you pay it off with this gorgeous variation of depth. Notice how you get some that are close and that are far away. This gives you a really nice volume, which exaggerates the depth in a very similar way that low focal length does. So that's fantastic. And then look at this pose. What the hell, dude? I mean, great focal length here. You see how big the hand is. That feels already really good. And look how close, again, these things are to camera. So you get that exaggeration of depth. But also the diagonal line of action is absolutely gorgeous. And then the kicks, that wipe camera, I mean, that's fantastic too. Oh my God, look at... I mean, you might think this is like an animation error for people who are not familiar with animation, but this is a really, really good thing to do. This is a smear. You're allowing the foot to drag behind the rest of the leg, which feels like it has more anticipation to it. It feels like it's got a payoff to it. It feels more like a whiplash, right? It's terrifying to look at, but in motion, it feels fantastic. This is also a great payoff. And then this right here, you notice how much the sword was dragging behind him as he was spinning it? He does do a weird spin here at the end, but look at this. The sword doesn't flip around until after his hand stops. So it goes up here and then it goes up there as a secondary beat. That shows also the anticipation and delay and the payoff in every single arc. And then from there, you get this, which feels like a pretty good payoff. This was really good. So I have to give this guy an S. We got 2 S's in a row for Iron Fist. That is crazy. Oh, shit. Oh, fuck. This is actually really good. This initial screen wipe is so good, dude. Amazing effects here. And then it transitions perfectly into this, which by the way, looks like it has 2 people, which is a really cool attention to detail because line dancing is done with 2 people. And then the motion that they're doing here is really accurate to lion dancing. I shouldn't be surprised because most likely this is a Chinese animator. So they have a really good handle on how lion dancing moves. The head is controlled by the hand and it's controlled very specifically to like form certain amounts of arcs while still feeling like a living creature. That's one of the main goals for line dancing and martial arts. I didn't do line dancing myself, but I did Kung Fu for a while, which is basically the same subset. Just a fun fact. The ending doesn't land for me. So I would give an A. He's a solid A. It's really well done. The ending just doesn't have as much of a payoff as I would like. Whoa. The pose, the aura. Okay, not bad at all. This is such a great pose. I love this pose right there. That is fantastic. Great poses here. Very good poses there. All very good poses. I wish it didn't have low FPS in this one, honestly, but that's the only thing. And he floats. And then this, talk about anticipation, bro. Every time someone does this, it doesn't feel like they always earn it. And this actually feels earned because he raises his hands up. They're actually above him instead of below his head. How many times have we seen that exact ending pose, but their arms are starting below his head? So this actually gives a really good anticipation and a really good arc. Yeah, honestly, I would put him in S. Oh! Oh yeah, that's good, dude. Look at those beautiful arcs, bro. I also really want to give a shout out to this diagonal camera at the end. Like you get that satisfaction of landing, but you don't get the satisfaction of complete peace, right? You have some additional tension with the Dutch angle and it just feels like an action pose. You get that really nice focal length too with this arm being a little bit closer. It could be a little bit stronger with the focal length, but it's actually still really good. This is good. So I give this a pretty solid A. Okay, conceptually, that was badass. Really, actually really good anticipation at the end. I would say that the payoff was good. He raised his hand and then brought it down in a nice, satisfying way. This is a great pose at the end too. I do like this one's really solid, but it also doesn't move a whole lot. Like he is mostly just posing here and it's badass and it's really well done. This is tough. I'm gonna give him a B. Really solid, but he doesn't do a whole lot, so I can't give him a higher score. Oh shit. I wish the snap had a bit more buildup. The problem is that the hand pose is a little bit too casual, right? So you focus on the hand, but you can't really tell that he's about to snap. Honestly, what you should probably have here is a hand pose that attracts some attention. So you can actually build up the focus of the viewer to the hand right here. So for example, if you had the fingers clearly opening up like this and like the thumb being visible as well, because that's where the snap is supposed to be focused on, right? So if the hand is coming at you like this, and then it closes after that with like maybe each finger kind of going in one at a time as it wraps into a fist or into the snap pose, that would be a lot cooler. So you get that visual interest as it passes camera to capture the viewer's eye, and then you go into this, and that would feel pretty good. I would rank Endgame Iron Man probably B. Whoa! Oh, that was sick. They're doing a really good thing with mechanical stuff, which is you have what are called separated beats. Separated mechanical beats allows mechanical things to feel very, very non-human because humans work in steps that are combined. Like for example, turning your arm and extending your elbow at the same time is one motion, whereas for a robot, they kind of have to think of those as two different gimbals. When you look at this guy, he's got a pose that he's hitting sort of mechanically, where he's sort of like holding a specific pose very, very still, which is this one right here. And then after that, you get a secondary beat, the whatever cover this is happening. I don't know mechanically how that happens, but it covers his arm and gets the whole booster thing going. So that actually feels really, really nice from a rhythm perspective. And then you get some great arcs, honestly, and then it builds up to this actually pretty well. So now you actually have a character coming towards screen where they are ending very close to screen. This guy's solid. I give Steampunk Iron Man an A. I think he's a pretty solid A. Whoa. Vampire Iron Man? Oh. Whoa. Whoa. Okay. That was cool. Dude, the pause here actually. Oh man. I'd be like, oh, it feels like they just paused for no reason. No, this feels really good. He just sits there menacingly. This is actually a really good animation. The anticipation of that pose and the payoff of this pose with the slight shake of his body feels fantastic. The one small critique I would have is that I can't really see him spinning beforehand. The effects are hiding a little bit too much of him. And I wish we could see him a little sooner, but the anticipation is there. The animation is there and the payoff comes in pretty well as he sort of spins into this pose. I give him an A. Could have been an S maybe, but he's missing for like half that like setup. Oh. Okay, I did not think that was going to be that good until the very end, and then I fell in love. This is a really cool anticipation, but you'll notice that the slash is in like the wrong direction. She's got a really good elbow pose and a really good setup and build up for this anticipation, right? This line of action is very clear and obvious. And then in the next few frames, what does she do? Her sword is totally off. The arcs are not building onto each other. The line of action isn't building onto each other for the sword. So the sword slash was a little disappointing. But then we get that little bit at the end, which is, it's so good. The weight on the sword is really well conveyed. The sword barely moves, which I love. And it has a pretty good solid arc, this sword, as it moves from where she left it and then to where it's going. And then you have this little just like catching, just a little catching motion along with the sound effect. Feels really, really good. Honestly, I love that so much. I can't give it an S because of that sword arc, which is unfortunate. So I have to give it a really, really high A. Hang on, let me just do this. She's a double A. Whoa. Good hit motion. That angle though. The arcs. Oh, the payoff. Actually, really good walking animation here. Her hit motion is really, really subtle, but it has a slight bounce up every time she hits the ground. This is a great angle. Just really good arc there. And then the payoff here to rotate the sword at the last second actually is set up really well. The pose sets it up. Honestly, I would say that the walk animation alone is S tier. So I give her an S. All right, who's next? Snowboarding Magik. Random poses. Interesting imbalanced animation. I'm not super into this one actually. This pose isn't properly set up. She feels like she's falling off. It doesn't really quite work. Plus, if you want to be angled this much, the sword has to be like here. You know what I mean? It can't be flat on the ground. If you're over here, like you kind of need to have more of a balance. This is a more accurate pose of how it should be. You see how like the balance on the momentum and everything feels better when you have her over here instead of right above. So that feels better because if the sword was lifted up a little bit like that, it would feel a lot more balanced. I've animated sword surfing before in Nameless Road. So the idea is kind of the same. The poses here are not paid off at all. So it's kind of random. So ideally they get set up a bit better, but I know the idea of it is just to have random poses. So I can't really fault it. The imbalance animation here, if someone actually did this in real life, they would break their back. The raising of the hip here is done a little bit too quickly. Generally imbalanced animations are because the hip is moving in a direction that you don't want it to. So you're trying to make that up. But like this is a bit too much. I'm not really sure how that's ultimately getting her back on her feet. Like there's no setup for this pose either. I probably have to give it a D. It's not accomplishing a whole lot. A D feels a little harsh. I give it a C. What? Whoa. I like this a lot. This is cool. The effects are gorgeous for this. Oh, this is tough. Honestly, from an animation perspective, there's not a whole lot of things that I can comment on. Like she does one pose. She lies on a couch. There's a lot of teleporting going on. This pose at the end is really, really cool. But from an animation perspective, I give it a solid B. Woo! Wait, that's the default one? That was actually so good. I love this initial spin and grab. It's just so visceral because the sound effects there are really, really good. You hear that shink sound, which feels fantastic. Also looks fantastic. So you actually get like this hand animation here. Not only that, but when he catches it, he doesn't just close his fist. He actually moves with the momentum of the spinny thingy after he stops the spinning, because the spinning momentum would transfer into his hand. Momentum transfer is going really well in a believable way so that it feels like he actually caught it. Moon Knight gets an S. That's an S tier. Just gave you an S, man. This is not bad, don't get me wrong, but man, is that disappointing. I thought there was gonna be more stuff happening. Pay attention to the fingertips. They're clipping and wiggling. You know what that means, right? Somebody animated the contact points for these fingertips in FK manually, which is some crazy form of torture I haven't been introduced to yet. That is crazy. No IK on these fingertip contacts, which means that somebody was manually matching the fingertips every frame to try to get them not to clip each other. And if you had like an IK setup or like a robust enough rig, you wouldn't have clipping fingertips. I would have to give some appreciation though, because I didn't notice it immediately, and that is actually pretty well done. I'm gonna give him like a decent B. Bonus points for the fingertips. There is a couple of problems with this one. For one, there is no momentum on this cloud. Imagine you're snowboarding, right? If you were to go this way, for example, and go this way, and you want to turn, usually you have to lean within the arc, right? So you lean this way towards the direction you're going to turn. I know he's technically going downwards here, but leaning forward is definitely not the most obvious momentum shift. But the important thing is that there is going to be some sort of weight shift or momentum change in order to achieve this kind of turn. The only issue is that he doesn't lean at all. His entire thing is just him standing exactly straight. And so much so that even when he turns, he's still leaning left. He's been leaning left this whole time. I know it's a magical cloud, but hear me out, right? Even magical clouds have to abide by inertia and momentum. Otherwise, it looks a little fake. And at the end of the day, if you just parent him to a cloud and you move the cloud, it's not going to look like he's riding the cloud. It's going to look like he's parented to the cloud. This right here has, I feel like, so much more potential with a lower focal length. If you had a focal length of 24, that would give you something that looks a little bit like this. You have something that feels a lot more interesting because there's more Z depth. The last few arcs are also not that exciting. If you take a look at what's actually happening here, you don't actually know that he's going to go down until like basically the last second. So you have all this buildup and all this arc, which looks beautiful and just goes up, 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 up. And then all of a sudden, like literally interrupting the arc. So it goes downwards. It does not feel that great. This particular downwards landing wasn't even the payoff. The payoff is him standing up, which also doesn't have any build up to it. There's a lot of disconnected ideas here. They don't build on each other, and ultimately the potential kind of falls flat a little bit. I put him in D tier. Whoa. Okay. Oh, it's actually really good. Amazing arc, transition towards Z depth, really low focal length. Notice how the focal length is actually getting smaller as it gets closer. I don't know if you guys noticed that. This is a high focal length relatively, and it actually zooms in on him. So here you actually have a pretty flat image. And then as he gets closer, you'll notice he suddenly gets stretched out. You can no longer see his feet. There's a lot more perspective distortion. So that means basically the focal length is getting smaller, which basically means it's becoming more and more of a wide angle lens. And then amazing transition here. Not only the framing, but also just like the immediate shift from being close to camera to far away from camera is a really dynamic way to build energy, and it feels great. And then you have this honestly really cool flip, and then he does this really cool punch pose, which is also really, really good for buildup. So the anticipation here is fantastic. He's got a really good framing, and then he punches the ground, which is a pretty good payoff. And I do like this pose. However, there's one thing wrong. This pose isn't being held long enough. There's not enough time for me to feel the anticipation of this pose. That's the one small thing that I would say. Fist of Vengeance is double A. Almost S, so close to S. The Luffy bounce at the beginning caught me off guard. Oh yeah? The beginning here has some really, really good anticipation actually, because he's just breaking all his bones. And you know what happens when you break your bones. You get really good arcs. So this is actually a really, really good arc. Fantastic anticipation for what he's about to do. Like if you just look at this in isolation, can you guys predict what's going to happen after this frame just from looking at it? It's pretty obvious, right? This foot is going to make contact with the ground, and then everything is going to follow into this like crazy like hammer down. That's exactly what happens. And it does a really good job. Not only that, but look at this focal length too. I mean, look how close the fist gets to camera. The only issue I have with this, honestly, is the ending, because the thumbs up pose kind of comes out of nowhere. I wish there was just a little bit more build up to it. It's also just kind of like a joke, and I can't really blame him for that. So it's like, it's not terrible. I do have to say, it's not bad at all. I'm gonna give him a AA. Whoa. Whoa. I don't know how to feel about this. I'm not gonna lie. That turn right there is creepy. It is so good. Why does it read as so creepy? He's just turning and looking at us, right? One thing I do really like about this is the fact that he actually has some really good settle. So like, not only does he turn really fast, but his arms and everything kind of dangle a little bit so that it feels really alive and really visceral. So it feels real. But not only that, obviously you guys can tell, he turns more than 90 degrees, like his whole chest, right? So that's not supposed to happen. This is the part where I get lost a little bit. I'm not sure exactly what happens because the screen kind of goes black a little bit too early. So I do kind of wish that they would actually like anticipate the fact that he's going to cover the camera just for a couple more frames so I don't get lost, because this kind of threw me off. And then this part right here doesn't have nearly enough anticipation, honestly. So a couple points taken off there at the end, but the beginning really strong. The maker I would probably give, but you know, let's give it an A. Yeah, I remember this one. Yeah, I remember this one. Okay, it's actually not bad. It's so interesting because like the wiggliness of his arm is done pretty well. The momentum and stuff makes sense. I kind of wish there was a little bit more like momentum in this coming in, because like in theory, you could have had like just a little bit more snap in the shoulder, right? Like right there. There's definitely some things that could be improved, but you know, other than that, like I think it's pretty good. I give him an A. Whoa! Is Namor just Aquaman, but he can fly? Kind of OP if you ask me. But there's one small area here. The screen space arc that they have here as he comes in is a little bit messy, but you'll notice here the camera movement is happening because the background is missing. I implore you, please just watch his butt for a little bit. Notice how his butt goes from here to here, right? So his arc is going this way, right? So we assume that he's going to keep going that way. And then where does it go? Completely 90 degrees this way. That is not a great transition of momentum. So ideally, he has a little bit more momentum up here and then comes down, and then it would feel better. It's honestly just a matter of frames. It's a very small thing, but it does matter, and it reduced the energy flow. Default Namor is actually in a pretty good position. I'd give him an A. That was pretty cool, not gonna lie, that's pretty cool. I will say the final slash is not quite landing for some reason. Well, for one thing, shoulders up, boys, shoulders up. And I'm noticing here that like the arc is really unclean. The thing was here, and then it goes down below camera. So if you notice, like if you imagine where the blade is like way below camera here, right? But like in the next frame, it actually implies that it's kind of exactly along camera. So suddenly it's up here again. So the arc isn't super clean there. Also, he like lets go all of a sudden. There's a really weird frame here where this is coming way too late. You need this like one frame sooner for the bend if you want that bend to make any sense. Either way, it is doing a decent job, but the slash goes from below camera to above camera now all of a sudden. It doesn't actually go across camera, which is where it should be. Even this water effect could have like less stuff here for a second and then engulf the screen, right? Instead of fully engulfing the screen so early. That way you get a little bit of lead on that slash shape. I'm gonna give him a B. Pretty good. The spin here is done really well. They spin on the axis really steadily until the end, where they're able to turn that axis in a really natural way. So they actually have a really good center of gravity there, and she's spinning in a really nice way. You get a really cool face shot here, which is great. And then here, you get the anticipation for this ending here. The only thing is that I feel like it could have stayed a little bit longer, just for a second. But it's otherwise good, honestly. I can't really complain. So I would say Psylocke, I think I'll give her a AA. Whoa. Oh. Oh, okay. That's what I'm talking about. Holy shit. This spin is so gorgeous. I mean, look at that. This thing is spinning and her body's also spinning really well. Very balanced. But the payoff to this pose is so good, actually. It's fantastic. She is an easy contender for S. It was impressive. Whoa. Halloween? Whoa. I don't like how good this shot is. This particular shot, it's cheating. It's unfair. The movement on her bangs and the look that she gives the camera, I thought I was watching animation. Turns out I'm just being emotionally manipulated. This ending is like fine or whatever, but like I don't even get a chance to recover from that eye contact. And I'm just like, okay. There's a couple things that are actually wrong with this. I'm not a big fan of this spinning thing because it obviously puts a lot of weight on the bat for a long time. And I kind of wish it wasn't so loosey-goosey with the physics there. But I understand the point of it, so it's kind of fine. But my initial impression is that that particular step didn't have to be so cutesy-wootsy, right? Oh, also she jumps after the bat disappears. It's not even that good of an animation, you know what I mean? There's so many things wrong with it. But just because of that one shot, she gets an A. Not bad. Not bad at all. However, I hate it. I'm just kidding. It's good except for the very beginning. The very beginning has a little bit of a small hiccup in the arc right here. It's not bad, but I feel like there could be a little bit more weight on her hand. It's a small thing. It's otherwise actually quite good. Scarlet Witch default, I give her an AA. Oh, oh my God. Oh God. Oh God, that's a bad frame. Don't like how it makes me feel, but I do feel something. Great first pose there. Really good impact at the beginning. This is awesome. That's like the best part of it. Then she even catches herself, which is really good. Is that a broken finger? That is disgusting. And then she stands up. The standing up part is actually the weakest part. So right here, I have a big problem with this. And I probably shouldn't because she's probably breaking the laws of physics anyway. But notice how she is technically supposed to be supporting her weight with her hand here. And then when she stands up, her leg is back here. And generally speaking, the problem is the fact that your weight isn't really able to easily transfer from here to there. So she's literally supporting herself with this hand and then that foot. In order to completely stand up, you got to shift your weight over there. And if you guys have ever like been on all fours and you need to like get up, it's really hard when your feet are anywhere far away from your hands. I'm just gonna be honest. She could be being lifted with some sort of supernatural force, and that's fair, but like it's not really easily conveyed here, obviously. But that being said, it's relatively fine because she is zombieing right now, so like whatever. This part here, I wish it paid off better. This is actually not what I expected to happen from the incredible setup that they have. This setup is probably S tier by itself, but what it turns into just doesn't feel like worthy. You know what I mean? Like a little lackluster in the very end, but I would put her in an A tier. It's okay. The beginning starts off really strong. The idea is really strong. This camera work is great. What they don't have is a good pose here. So instead of like having her hands point upwards, if they had pointed sideways, like the fingers pointed sideways and the palms pointed upwards, and she had a really cool hand pose here, I think this would read so much better from more angles. Overall, she's a C. Whoa. Oh my God. Dude, talk about dynamic. Holy shit. So this is a great character moment already. And then Spider-Man's towards camera, great focal length here, comes directly towards camera, flies past camera with camera shake, by the way, flies all the way past here, and then lands in this perfect Spider-Man pose with really good silhouette. So it could be slightly better, I'm not gonna lie. Other than that, I would say it's pretty good. Spider-Man default, I would give it an S, not gonna lie. Yo, what? Wait, that's so good. This is incredible character animation, if I'm being honest. There's just one small thing I wish it did better, which is just the flip itself. He does turn very suddenly, and I wish it wasn't as sudden. I don't exactly know why he's ghosting here, to be fair. Like, he turns upwards and, like, does a backflip, but then, like, this is not a pose that would happen if you were doing a backflip. That's my main issue with it. If it transitioned a little bit better to this particular pose, that would have been great, but otherwise, yeah. But everything else is fantastic. This is a great payoff. It's a great setup. It's a great, like, pose, and everything's really, really good. Bagman, you honestly deserve such a high score. I just wish the flip was better. I feel like I have to give you an AA. Ah, goddamn. Okay. Yo! Wait, that's crazy that they didn't even have to do like a special poster at the end because he's already so stylized that they just like did a freeze frame. The poses are really good. The effects are really good. Overall, high energy, really good animation in each pose. Each one of these poses has a lot of settle. Each strum has a lot of energy and it just carries through in the pose. I love this one. Spider-Punk is probably a really solid A. I want to give him a much higher score. It just lacks a little bit of that payoff, but it is amazing. Yo! That was crazy. But I do have to take off some points, guys. This beginning is easily S tier. And then right here, I don't like this pose. This pose does not feel earned. It feels like he's sitting on a toilet or something. With the mistakes that are being made, I have to put him in a B tier. Yo! It started off so strong, dude. The paintings that they do here is a really cool idea. I do kind of wish instead of fading into them, they just like snap into them because it is a little distracting from the motion, unfortunately. But the movement is incredible. This throws me off a little bit, which I think is supposed to be an impact frame, but because it's fading in, it doesn't really give an impact. This is giving me a bit of psychic damage because I don't know what I'm looking at. And then it goes here, that's fine. And then he looks at nothing, and that confuses me. So I'm like, okay. And then he attacks the nothing. So that didn't really set up a really good ending. I'm not gonna lie. Everything building up to this was really, really great. And then they're like, dude, how cool would it be if we showed his attack being completely useless? And like, it doesn't really build up to it. Like there's nothing there to build up to, and there's no poses that are building up to this. This is a cool shot. I do like this shot. Like this is a cool ending pose, but it's not set up properly. From an animation standpoint, I would call it a double A. Wait, that's so cute. This is actually really good animation, guys. The weight of the shoulder coming in as she's losing track of it, like a little bit of a dizzying feel. There's a very, very slight sort of like rotational arc here in her head that feels like really satisfying, like right there. Gives such a great settle to her animation, while at the same time flowing perfectly into her acting, which is the nuzzle. Other than the last pose not being that great, everything else is actually very, very impressive. I have to give her an A. The form for her tap dancing isn't correct, but I don't think she's supposed to be like a really good tap dancer. It's a cute animation. I can't really lie about that. She's a solid B. The animation's decent. Whoa! Wait, why'd she come in from the right? Her tail is crazy. I don't know, they just kept switching places in screen space. It's not the end of the world to switch screen space, but it's just like when you don't have to, you shouldn't. She's clearly on screen left here, and I'm only just now realizing that she's looking technically over here, which is crazy because I just assumed that she was looking this way. The tail animation here is also a little scuffed. Usually a tail, the energy would flow out because you're kind of like going like this, right? But the way that this tail is currently wagging, it actually kind of looks like the energy is going inwards. So it's almost like it's scooping energy into the tail, which is opposite of how most tails are able to operate, just because it takes a lot more time and energy for the tip of the tail to actually take the lead. So that feels a little off. And then this is fine. This is actually pretty impressive, I will say. I do like that part. She does have a bit of a dead eye, to be fair, right here. She doesn't blink or do anything, and she doesn't change her eyes. The facial animation could be a little bit better there. But then my issue here is that she's suddenly on the right side of camera again. Like if she just stayed over here and then the squirrel's on this side, it would actually be just as good, if not better. And then you'd be able to follow her a little bit better in screen space. It just feels better. I give her a C. It's okay. Whoa! Wait, that was so good. The reveal from the smoke is done really well. You have the squirrel pick up the nut, then come towards camera, which turns into impact frames and this gorgeous smoke effect. And then from there, it comes towards camera with a whoosh, which transitions to this shot. So the reveal is really well anticipated. So that feels amazing. Not to mention the low focal length here, so that's awesome, and a really, really good facial animation. And then from there, she just strikes a pose, and honestly, that's fine. In this particular, the payoff really was the reveal itself. And from the reveal, she does something that just feels really in character. The amount of energy from the explosion to the reveal carries through into this pose, and I feel like it does it really well, actually. I give her a pretty strong A. That was actually pretty good. Already the very beginning is so strong. Anytime someone comes directly at camera and then like puts their shoe in your face, it's gonna get your attention. So that's already fantastic. Then we get a screen wipe. Really, really good momentum builder there, right? It doesn't build on it as well as it could, but it is still really good. And then here, it's a pretty decent setup and a pretty decent payoff. It's actually executed perfectly, but the ideas are not S-worthy. So I would say it's a pretty strong A. Guardians of the Galaxy. That was cool. I don't know why they had all the time in the world to draw this face, and they just gave him the most default pose face I've seen in a while. Sorry, Chris Pratt. That is crazy. Like, that face is great. Why not have that face in the ending? One thing I will say, and I said this a lot, shoulders, people, shoulders. If you have a downward slope here, it's gonna make you feel too relaxed. If you're shooting people and you want to kill them, you want it to feel flat from the neck. Notice how this already feels better? Honestly, he's a D. There's worse Ds out there, but it's a D. Oh, shit. Nova Core? What? Yeah, no, I actually really like this one. I'm impressed. So really strong beginning. Screen wipe is pretty cool. That's a great pose, by the way. And he does a really cool screen wipe here, which I feel like is really good. Good anticipation, good payoff. It's really not bad. I give Master of the Sun an A. It is actually very good. Whoa. Whoa, the aura, dude. That was so good. Oh, man. This right here feels so like Homelander. You know, like so much aura here, dude. And then as he comes down, which is a really good angle, by the way, very good setup here to make you really feel like you're anticipating perfection. That was hilarious. That was so good. From like an ideas perspective, it's absolutely gorgeous. But they are missing one or two poses here that would make it a little bit better. It's mostly just the fact that his left leg could be used to balance him a little bit more because it's really the main propulsion. That would allow him to feel a little bit more physically accurate. But it's a really small thing. Ultimately, I think this is hilarious and it's really well executed. This is clearly a very strong A. Oh shit, lightning rod. Oh shit! It's another one of these hunch over and then open up your arms movements, which is actually done pretty well. I'm noticing that they're raising the elbows this time. Very good. And honestly, the biggest problem with it is this ending pose. It's just she's turned away too much where the hand doesn't really matter anymore. And I kind of wish that they just like kept her body more like this. This actually would have read a little bit better, I think. The boobs, for example, be a little bit more like that instead. Instead of overlapping each other in a way where it's like you can only see one large boob, just show both the boobs. This is a winning strategy. I don't know what's going on. Storm default is honestly pretty good, but I would say the ending falls a little flat for me, so I would probably give it a B. Oh shit! But why this pose? Where are we getting this from, guys? This pose is not very clear. The silhouette itself is actually this. From the corner of my eye, because it was so unclear and because there was so many effects also blocking it, I thought she was only pointing with one finger because I couldn't see this finger because it's being tangented with the other fingers. Honestly, just bend these fingers down a little bit and that already would have been enough. After that, she's doing a spinning thing. The spinning animation, it's okay. It's Storm. So it's just, she's kind of tornadoing around. That's kind of fine. But then this doesn't have any setup to it. And it's disappointing. Mohawk Storm is a D. Okay, honestly, it's very good. There's one problem with it, and it's this pose, which is actually my favorite pose, but it's not as good as it could be. I feel like they could have exaggerated this a bit more because there's a lot of wasted space. This is a gorgeous hand pose, and she is calling towards Mjolnir. So I like this shot a lot. However, if she was here and the hand came over here, now you have suddenly a lot more space between the face and the thumb. Now you have suddenly a much stronger pose, and then you don't have all this cape, which you don't really need. Everything here is fighting for space. Everything here wants to just like exist in this one small area, and you have all the space to use, man. Just use it. I would put her a strong A. Okay. He has the superpower of guns. I love this. I would say solid MVP default animation, but the weight on this payoff is fantastic. Oh my god, look at the stretch on his face. They're physically pulling his jaw and everything down. His face is dragging through the air. It feels really good. I would probably give him a strong A though. Oh! Holy shit. Wait, that's insane. I love this frame. Look at the focal length on this, dude. Just compare the relative size of his foot with his head. That's how you know the focal length is doing its job. So I love that. It really gives you a nice sense of depth there. This lands a little flat for me. And this is a small thing. I wish the Gatling gun didn't cover his face. But like right here, if they just had the gun continue pointing downwards during this time, because it's lower, it doesn't cover his face. And it gives a little bit more variety to his arm angles, which also feels really good. Honestly, I give him a B. The rest of it is decent, but it falls flat at the end. Whoa. I didn't know there was tentacles in that thing. That's a really solid one, not gonna lie. The retracting animation is pretty good, especially because tentacle animation is actually not that easy to do. I have to give this an A, honestly. Ayo? no, he's in therapy. I'm gonna stare at my gun and then at you. It's like, bro, I get it, dude. It's not that deep. Honestly, it just quite frankly is a D. Yo, sheesh, okay. Very good. I really like this opening because the physics animation on the lamp is really good. This is a little disappointing because he lifts his arm a little too slowly. Like for such an impact, it's basically like bam, and it's like the impact is signifying a much speedier movement than what you're showing me. They just had the pose already arrive here like sooner, right? If he's doing this already and then the impact happens, it would just feel a lot better. Everything else is decent. I'll give him a C. The ending, pretty hot, not gonna lie. But what happened? Okay, so it's from the movie, which makes sense. I didn't watch the movie, so I'm a little confused. It seems to be missing some context. I think the whole tether grabby thing just didn't register to me. This thing just kind of falls off by chance. That doesn't feel very satisfying. It just like falls down and then he somehow gets off the motorcycle, by the way, which is not explained. And then he does this, which is badass, but I just wish there was a bit more explanation and setup for it. So for the motorcycle, see how it's like mostly staying in the same spot? He's not really going anywhere crazy. As he comes up here, have him go up a little bit and then go back a little bit. Give it just a little bit of depth variety and then you'll have a much more dynamic camera. You'll get a lot more energy and also a lot more immersion from the viewer. Honestly, I would say it's B. Okay. Oh, some bone breaking at the end. Take a look at this. Look at the arm, dude. That should not be there, but it is. That's a really good anticipation pose. However, the beginning, not a big fan of this. So the whole like, I'm gonna open my claws towards camera thing falls flat when the camera is also moving. So if the camera moved first and then the hand came into position and then the claws came out in that order, it would feel pretty cool. You'd be able to see this first, like without the claws, and then suddenly the claws would appear. Honestly, Wolverine default, I put him in B. Oh my god. Is this the Peter scene? It is, yeah. I don't see any animation here. It's just the bus. He kind of goes forward and then slashes in midair, but he's already kind of stopped in midair. Generally speaking, if you want to have slow-mo, you kind of have to have everything go in slow-mo at the same time. In this particular case, it looks to me like he jumps out, his hands are basically not moving, but his body's moving forward pretty fast. And then his body stops moving forward, and then his hands start moving forward. That's a D animation. As a movie reference, I think it's pretty cool, but man, the animation is not much. Oh shit! Okay. Okay. Bro, he slashed the moon! This is insane, bro. The amount of movement and the gorgeous arcs, honestly, that are coming out here, it feels really well deserved. And then the anticipation here is incredible, dude. Notice how the face is coming towards camera and the hands are going way back. It goes right into the screen. And then what a beautiful transition to this. I absolutely love this one. Holy shit. Blood Berserker is very clearly an S. No question. That's actually really pretty. I don't think that this was paid off very well. I wish there was more to it, but I like the beginning a lot. I really like the reflection, honestly. I think the idea for the reflection is really cool. I'll give him a C. That is every Marvel Rivals Duelist in the game. We finally did it. So I hope you agree with all my opinions. Let me know. You know, if you disagree. Honestly, there were so many great animations in the Duelist category. It's incredible to see. And yeah, if you like hearing me talk about animations, I do this a lot. So subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.